What's up, everybody? I know it's been a while since we did a video. I apologize. We've been really busy lately. Before we get started though, be sure, do me a favor, if you like the video, give it a share, tell your friends about it, like, share, subscribe. You know, we always say that, but it really does help when you share it out with your friends and everything. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy the video. We got a lot to cover today because I haven't done a video in probably about 2 weeks, and it has been a busy 3 or 4 weeks. So I'm gonna cover kind of a little bit of everything real quick in the beginning, and then we're gonna get back to work on Liam. So for starters, a big change that we've had just recently is we got a brand new trailer. Well, new to us anyway. Not completely brand new, obviously. I think it's actually pretty old. So yeah, let me take you in there real quick, just show you kind of the gist of it. The reason why we bought this one was not just for the size. We're actually gonna have a smaller area for the vehicles, but I'll show you why we like it so much. All right, excuse the mess a little bit. We literally picked up the trailer and then immediately came down here. We actually stayed in it on the way down. But so if you'll see this whole area when you first come into the trailer, this is going to be our living area. We want to be able to, you know, be comfortable when we're at the track staying for multiple day events, or when we drive out somewhere. We want to be able to stay and not have to worry about hotels. I mean, it gets really expensive when you go out on trips and, you know, you have to stay out there for multiple days. Here is the back portion of the trailer. And sorry, we haven't really gotten set up in here. So this is all just kind of how Randy had it. Oh, by the way, this trailer is from the exact same person that I bought our previous trailer from, Randy with the Heap. He's selling this trailer. They wanted to get something, you know, a little bit more RV-like, and so I think that's what they're going for, so they didn't have any use for this. All right, so what else have we been up to? Well, chickens and the ducks are still the chickens and the ducks. Wendell still hates me. Look at him, he's giving me the eyeball right now. He's thinking about coming and attacking me. But we've been working a lot on other people's cars. Yeah, I mean, that's been one of the big reasons why we haven't been able to get the truck done. It's still sitting here exactly as it was the last time that we drove it and broke the motor. So the cars that we've been spending a lot of time on, one is a pretty interesting project that I'm really pretty happy to be a part of. We got Troy's Mustang. PTS Fab did the entire turbo setup on it and everything. They did a lot of work on it. I'm not too sure the extent of everything, like, but I know they had Rudd Racing engines do the engine in there. PTS Fab, I think anything fabricated on there pretty much besides the cage and the chassis itself, they did. And the combination is freaking ridiculous. Back here at PTS Fab with Nick and Dustin working on this car today. It should say pump and then pump and fans.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. P plus fans.
So really it's somebody else's fault is what we're getting at.
Yeah, it totally wasn't us. It's the Democrats. Did you eat already?
Great, now my video's demonetized. Good job.
I forgot about that. You can't make political jokes?
It's probably the first time that I've worked with a motor, particularly an LS-based motor, that is just so easy to make power. It's ridiculous. It's a 430-something LS-based motor, stock block setup, and 106 millimeter. Uh-oh, I think he saw a hawk or something. He's not happy about it. So yeah, LS-based and 106 millimeter turbo, and the damn thing just is ridiculous on power. So 14.5 pounds, it makes about 1,200 horsepower. Keeping that in mind, that's actually low on power. So what we expect, we ran into some problems. So we were having a lot of issues with crankcase pressure and some coolant pressure and the oil really milking up a lot. Now, there's a lot of things in this car that we figured that was going to happen anyway, but there were some other things that just didn't quite add up, like why the oiling system on the car wasn't getting rid of that crankcase pressure on its own. It was really, really strange. And same thing goes for coolant pressure. There really shouldn't have been as much coolant pressure as we were seeing. And so we were kind of concerned about that, but we made some changes. We put a vacuum pump on it to get some of that pressure out. And we hoped that that was going to be the solution to the problem. And it helped. It allowed us to make some passes like these. But it wasn't completely the solution, because as we turned up the power, we just kept getting more and more crankcase pressure to the point where it was positive again. We don't want it to be positive at all. We want to be in vacuum at all times, at least a little bit. Even, you know, 0 was fine. We were fine with like half a PSI, 1 PSI, something like that. But we were all the way back up to like 6 or 7 PSI by the time that we were done. So there was an issue there, and we ended up having to actually take the motor apart. We were like, look, something's got to be wrong with the motor. And it wasn't at any fault of Rudd Racing Engines. They did a great job. That motor makes some serious power. It's going to be great. I mean, so much power that even guys in Oklahoma, and I don't know why they were so bitter. I don't know. I mean, Troy's from Oklahoma, so maybe it's, you know, some personal rivalry that they got going on. But they literally wouldn't believe us that it was only on 14.5 pounds. They were saying that we had the map sensor scaled wrong, or we were just, you know, straight up lying. I mean, those are the only two options. You're either calling us stupid or you're calling us liars. Those are the only two things. I mean, if we went around saying that we had a stock LS in there, like a 5.3 or something, and that we were making 1,300 horsepower on, you know, 15 pounds, okay, yeah, there's a problem with that. That's probably not true, because that's suggesting that it's making like, you know, 750, 800 or 700 horsepower on the motor. So that's obviously not going to happen with the stock motor. But with this motor, that actually is what it makes on the motor. That motor from Rudd Racing Engines is expected to make 850 to 900 crank horsepower. So it really doesn't seem that outrageous that if you double the atmosphere that that's running on. So it's expected to make 850 to 900 horsepower on 1 atmosphere, 100 kPa, however you want to do it. If you double that, if you're running about 14.7 to 15 pounds, then you are doubling the air that's going into that motor. So theoretically, you should be close to doubling the horsepower output of that motor. So if it makes, you know, 800, let's say 800 to be conservative, 800 horsepower on 1 atmosphere, then on 2 atmospheres, it should make 1600 horsepower. Give or take, there's a lot of other variables in there, but a rule of thumb is if you double the atmosphere, it will double what the motor makes on the motor. So yeah, I think honestly what we should have gotten through drivetrain and everything like that, we were down probably 150 horsepower on what we should have made. And it makes sense because the motor ended up having some serious issues with just the block. Rudd Racing Engines did not do the block. The block was provided to them, and we got some bad luck on it. We got a really bad block. It was leaking from like 10 different areas. 2 of the sleeves sunk, I think. It had a lot of issues. So we were getting actual water into the motor, water into the combustion chamber. It was rusting everything up. We at first thought that we were doing something wrong with fuel, injectors leaking, or something crazy like that. Turns out it was just water from our system being able to leak into the combustion chamber as well as into the oil. So that's why we were getting really, really milky oil. We weren't able to burn it off. Like, you could burn the fuel off because it's easy to burn. As long as it's over like 150 degrees, it's gonna vaporize and then you can suck it out, or it'll burn off when you're actually running the car and it's getting up to 200 degrees or something like that. So we were really confused about all of this, but once we realized how many places that block was leaking, around the sleeves, in the lifter galley area, it was leaking freaking everywhere. And it all made sense after that. So unfortunately, that means he's got to spend a whole lot of money to get a good block, because the company that he got the block from is not even around anymore. So that's just crappy luck. So, but yeah, we got some good passes in there, and it's only going to get faster. That car is going to be absolutely ridiculous. And so we're really stoked to be a part of that. And then one of the other cars that we've been tuning was a buddy of ours, a customer, PTS Fab, who did all of the fabrication on this car as well. Super, super clean, like a 93, 95 Civic hatch. All right, guys, we are back with this H Series, beautiful Civic. Really nice setup. Stock H Series, so nothing special. I think it was an H22 on Honda, and yeah, it had been a while since I did a Honda, so it was actually kind of fun. But we had some problems on the initial session that we started it up and got everything, all the sensors configured and everything. It was overheating, so we didn't want to put it on the dyno just yet. He went back, they fixed it, and we got to put it on the dyno, and made good power. Made something over 400 horsepower, I think, and but that was the lowest amount of boost that we could make on it. So every car has some kind of issue the first time through, and the issue on this one was we couldn't actually control boost down. Higher RPM we went, the higher boost it would run. So for some reason it was creeping. We don't know if it was a physical issue, like the gate wasn't opening up all the way, but everything that I was controlling seemed like it was working well. Hayden made the manifold. The manifold similar to those. We've seen tons of them work just fine. So not really too sure what was going on there. I'm kind of pointing a little bit more at the gate. There had to have been something wrong with the gate, it not being able to open up all the way or something, because it was acting like the gate was too small. So we'll see. It won't be a problem in the future because he plans on putting a built motor in there, and so he plans on running a lot more power anyway, so it won't really be an issue, because I think it can sustain close to the boost that it was running right now. It just can't go any lower, unfortunately. So again, super cool dude, really nice car, and once we got rid of the overheating problem, it was a really smooth tune. Everything else that he did was just, quality work, fuel system and everything. And last but not least, we have Murder's car. So we decided to help him a while ago, and it took kind of a while to get to a point where we were ready to tune. He sent it to PTS Fab, again, doing awesome fabrication work. They did a new exhaust manifold, They put on a new intake manifold that was done by somebody else. You know, throttle body, new cold piping, new hot piping. They did some other, radiator setup. They did a new cooling setup. So the radiator's not in the front anymore. It's underneath the car in the back. And yeah, I mean, it turned out great, as it always does. Everything got powder coated black and looks really, really good. And they put the car on the dyno. I wasn't actually able to be there for the dyno tune. The guys from PDX did that. They help him out a lot. They've done a lot of the tuning previously, and they did a great job. We were out actually going to get the trailer when they were able to get it on the dyno. So the new turbo that he put on there, it was able to make a heck of a lot more power at a lower boost, which is what was expected. Both having a more efficient intake and exhaust manifold, that was kind of a no-brainer. It was going to pick up some power, and it was going to be able to run lower boost. So did exactly what it was supposed to. And yeah, then we were able to go to the track, or actually they went to the track first. So once everything was done, we went to the track and we were preparing for an event that's actually going on right now this weekend. It was the Hood to Hood picnic. So we went on a Thursday to a track rental and did some passes. It did great. It is logging again, so we're able to do it. It drops log every now and then. There's still a wiring issue that we got to figure out that's allowing a little bit too much of the ignition noise to interfere with the computer, and then it loses link and it doesn't log appropriately. But we're gonna have him put in a logging switch so he can just turn it on and we know that it's logging within the ECU onto the memory card. And that'll be a solid way to make sure that we always get a log, because that's pretty critical when we're trying to tune everything out. But yeah, like I said, the PDX guys did a great job getting it tuned for power. Definitely makes a lot of power, a lot more than it used to. And we were able to apply it pretty dang well at the track. So the first pass that he did, he started with a really, really high rev limit. It was at like 5,500 or something like that. And it was targeting probably, 21 pounds, something along those lines. And I figured, me and Jeff was the other guy that had previously tuned it. And going off of the stuff that they were doing before, it needed a lot of RPM because they were also using timer retard off the trans brake button. But it didn't need both at the same. We were going to take away the, well, actually, we knew it was making more power at this same boost. And so I had a feeling it was going to have to be one or the other. Either high RPM and not a lot of boost, or lower RPM and a lot of boost. And I tend to lean on the side of lower RPM and higher boost. Tends to be a little bit softer, less tendency to shock the tire. So we went out there on the first one and it just lit the tires up immediately. So yeah, the first one kind of just lit up the tires completely, and obviously he just backed up and we couldn't make any changes in there. So I was like, all right, well, it comes up in RPM pretty quickly because he's using the nitrous to get on the converter. So I just opened up the door and I told him, like, hey, don't leave it on the launch control, because like I said, we had to do one or the other. We're going to use RPM or boost, not RPM and boost. So since we couldn't change the rev limiter right then and there, I said, all right, as soon as it hits the launch control, just go. So that way, I knew that he was going to have some boost, but it wasn't going to have too much, and he was going to be at the right RPM, so 5,500.
But that's still, the RPM will just shock it though. If we leave him with low RPM but a lot of boost, it'll ease out but get gnarly real quick. 48? Actually, tell him as soon as it gets on the limiter, just go. Don't let it build.
Hey, he's right. It's not making a
one, just as soon as it gets to the limiter, go.
Go, okay, got it.
Ah, son of a bitch.
Talking about, huh?
Yeah.
As soon as that motherfucker hit you, let it go.
Hey, that's a tough feeling.
That's my like personal best.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh,
137 mile an hour.
The car's going.
So he did that, you know, as soon as it got to the limiter and he was able to react, he let go and it went perfect. It was a personal best, 60 foot, 330, 8th mile, pretty much everything. So really, really promising. We messed around with a couple of settings. We got him on a lower RPM and we're gonna be doing higher boost. And geez, making like the most noise possible over here. We're getting ready to work on the truck, so she's cleaning up a little bit. So yeah, everything went really good. But what we ended up starting running into was not power control or power engine related at all. It was chassis related. And what I think was happening was we got the damn thing leaving so hard, it was actually starting to wheelie.
That motherfucker is rolling, dog. 7-second wheelie? What? Okay, we'll see, we'll see. Oh my god! Oh my god!
Unfortunately, what was happening was it was transferring so much weight, and I think they had the suspension set up previously to, you know, a marginal track or, you know, maybe a higher tire pressure or something. I'm not too sure why they had it so soft, but the harder we're gonna have to hit it, the more power we're transferring, the more energy we're sending to the back of the car when it does transfer, the more we have to make sure that it gets put into the ground. So if we're launching soft, we don't need as stiff of a shock setting. But the harder and harder that we hit it, we're gonna need a stiffer and stiffer shock setting to resist that squat. We don't want it to squat, we want all that energy to go into the ground instead of going into the shock. And so until we get a chance to actually mess with those shock settings, he's also gonna flare the fenders out a little bit so that we have more room before it hits the tire. But yeah, if we were able to get a good video of it and zoom in on it, somebody had one. I don't think we got one that was really close on it, but you know how most of the time you launch and you see the bottom of the tire distort, like where it's actually being pushed into the ground and it's like wadding up a little bit? Well, he had distortion on the top of it. That's how hard the fender was actually hitting the tire. It was literally smashing it. So it would launch really hard and it was, you know, doing this wheelie and it was all great, but while it was in a wheelie, it was like applying the brakes to it. So our 60 foot started suffering, obviously the 330 and everything beyond that, but power up top, it was doing great. It was trapping about 169. So the power's there. We know the available grip is there, but we got to make sure that it doesn't basically fight itself and put on the brakes with the fender. That's pretty much the update for what we've been doing. A lot of these cars were multiple sessions. So we'd do it one weekend and things wouldn't go well, so we had to reschedule. And so it was just taking up a lot of our time. But Tanya has been doing some work here lately. We got the rear end for the El Camino. We'll be working on that a little bit later. We have a new engine here for Liam, and we're gonna have to do a little bit of, you know, block and head musical chairs. That is an L33, so it has Gen 4 internals. That is, I think that's actually a straight Gen 3 aluminum 5.3. I don't know what the engine code is for it, but it probably, we're gonna check it just to make sure, but it more than likely does not have Gen 4 internals. So this is the El Camino motor. This is going to be Liam's motor. We're gonna take that bottom end and use it in Liam and probably put these heads on that bottom end. This one has good heads and a cam for the El Camino, so we're going to put that we're gonna use that for this block, but we're gonna take the pistons out and do a piston and rod motor for the El Camino. So I know I always said we were gonna stick with stock motors and we weren't ever going to need to build a motor, but unfortunately she's greedy as hell and she wants to run 4s. So we're gonna need a little bit of, I guess, insurance. I think the stock bottom end obviously can make the power necessary for it, but it gives you just a little bit of peace of mind knowing that you don't have to worry about the bottom end. Or the health of the bottom end. I mean, who knows what kind of life these motors have had over their 200,000 miles. So yeah, El Camino, we're planning on making around 1,300 horsepower or so, 1,350, somewhere around there. So it's just probably going to be nice to have a set of pistons and rods in there. I am not saying they're necessary. If you guys want to make that on stock bottom end, by all means, I think you can, and I think it can be relatively reliable. So that's what we're going to start working on right now, is tearing that all down and making sure that we got the right parts in there. We're also going to take this motor out of Liam and tear it apart and see what actually happened and see what's salvageable.
Ooh, what do we got?
Hopefully we can still use these heads. That would be nice. But I don't know how much stuff got gnarled up. How much metal went through the oil? Did it mess up the cam? Did it mess up the oil pump? Are the lifters messed up? Like, how many things can we actually use? So hopefully it failed in a way that wasn't too bad. If it just put a hole in a piston, probably got away with just pressurizing the coolant system, and then we can still use a bunch of stuff from it. So over the next 2 weekends, probably, we're gonna get all of that sorted out. Hopefully getting this thing running again and racing again, because we're bored.
Can we put the rear end on Nick's schedule?
On the what?
Nick's schedule?
Yeah. I need to ask him how he wants us to prep it.
Yeah.
So if we're taking off these brackets or if we can still use them, like, I don't actually know what we're gonna do. So we gotta figure that out, because the El Camino, I'm not used to, normally we just put some 4-link brackets on it, like this one over here. So this one for the Civic, by the way, the Civic is still outside, sitting there waiting to be worked on. These are the 4-link brackets for that. But for the El Camino, we're gonna be doing stock location stuff. So we're still gonna be using the ears. We gotta get some solid bushings for those. We're not gonna be using these control arms, so they'll come off, but I gotta ask Nick if the control arm kits that we use, if they use these stock brackets, or if we're gonna be welding on, a different type of bracket. So not really sure, never done it, but I know we have to shorten this just a little bit at least, and then we're gonna put the 9-inch ends on it, just like the other rear ends that we've done, and probably put one of those different covers on it that has the little bracing, and weld up the tubes, put some bracing on it, and make sure that this thing doesn't break like the trucks did. So yeah, that's it. Tanya is going to be taking over working on a lot of the video stuff, so you'll probably see her in a lot more videos, as well as she'll be doing the editing of a lot of the videos, so that I can concentrate a little bit more on, I guess, working on the cars. And well, you're gonna be working on the cars, sure, but during the week you've got a lot more time to edit the videos and whatnot, so that's why we're making it her job. She got the Rona.
I did not get the Rona.
No, she got sick the other day, and hopefully I don't get sick as well. So the other thing, lastly, for the truck, we are going to change out the fuel tank. This thing has been falling apart for a while. I think it might be the root of a lot of our issues of getting debris in the filters, which is what ended up clogging them and what ended up breaking this motor. So I'm pretty pissed off that it was such a stupid problem that I was aware of, and I still did not make sure that we fixed.
What did we learn?
We learned, don't be stupid and trust your gut. I knew that I should have looked at the filters, and I was like, nah, it'll be all right. And there you go.
How much did it cost you?
Catastrophic damage. Probably in the end about $1,200.
How much time?
Too much. Too much. And my time is worth more. So we're gonna make some changes so that we don't have to, or we can at least eliminate that as a variable. I don't know if it has anything to do with it, but I think it does. So we're gonna change this to a plastic tank. We may have to do a little bit of changes to the lines and fittings depending on how that plastic tank comes. And we're gonna continue to use the 50/50. This is the methanol and pump gas stuff. We're gonna run that out I think I got enough testing on it to where I'm, you know, happy to make a general statement of how it is. I think it's definitely useful. We'll talk about that more later, but with the plastic tank, we're probably going to go to a Bosch 210 or a Snake Eater Performance Bosch style 210 injector. Right now there are 160s in there. If I go with the 210s, I think we can probably go straight methanol and make around at least 1200 horsepower out of that. So that should be all that we're ever gonna make on this. I don't think we'll ever need to make more than that. And the reason why I know that we can do that is because the injectors that we have on Troy's Mustang, that is making anywhere from 12 to 1300 horsepower, it has 2 sets of Snake Eater 210 injectors. And we are only still using the first set of injectors at 14.5 pounds. And they are at about 40% duty cycle, like maybe 38 to 40% duty cycle. So yeah, obviously if you have enough pump behind those injectors, and it's not even a very high base pressure. I think we have like a 60 PSI base pressure. So as long as you have a 60 PSI base pressure and Snake Eater Performance 210s on straight methanol, you should be able to support around 1200 to, or probably theoretically it should be 1400 horsepower that will support. I think a lot of people realize or forget that, you know, if you just do the basic math on it, you know, methanol does take a lot of fuel volume, but a 210 injector and a proper fuel pump setup can go a long way. So a lot of people's goals are right in that area, 1200, 1300 horsepower. So yeah, I think we're gonna go ahead and go straight methanol and see how we like it, especially with the plastic tank. Hopefully I don't have to do as much maintenance as we were doing before, draining it out like, you know, every moment. So yeah, that's it. That's what we got going on. I just wanted to do a video and update everybody on what we've been doing, why we haven't been doing videos. It's just been really, really busy lately. But we were going to start putting out definitely more videos more frequently, especially with Tanya being able to work on them without me. We will record as much as possible, and we'll cut it into shorter videos and update them throughout the week because she'll be able to work on it. So anyway, this will be the last one for a while that you just hear me talking. The next couple of videos will definitely be a lot more action, working on the cars, working on the truck, working on the El Camino, working on other people's cars. Yeah, well, I guess we'll wrap up there, right?
Yeah.
Tell them to like, share, and subscribe and do things and stuff.
Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell.
Hey.
Right here or here? Here.
Yeah, hit the notification bell so that you can get actual notifications, because subscribing really doesn't do a whole lot. And yeah, definitely, if you enjoy the content that we do now and in the future, please do us a favor and share it out, and we will see you next time.